Hello, this is Myeongdong, the representative hot place in Seoul. Myeongdong is a famous place that is considered a must-visit place when visiting Korea. It is always crowded with people. It is the place with the most floating population in Korea. During the Middle Ages in Korea, this was a residential area for poor nobles who did not have official positions. When Korea became a Japanese colony in 1905, the class society disappeared, and this place became a commercial area for the Japanese. People probably started to flock here from that time. At that time, this was the first place in Seoul where Western culture was introduced. The reason for this was because this place was called Honmachi, which was the residence of the Japanese upper class. As you know, fashion trends were spread by the rich and royals. Naturally, this street also displayed products for the rich. Korea's first department store is located here. You can see it as the place where the richest people at that time lived. In 1945, when Korea became an independent nation, all the Japanese merchants who were here disappeared, and Koreans opened stores in their place. Since then, this place was called Myeongdong. Naturally, since it was a place where the rich lived, the Colonial Central Bank was also located here. The Bank of Korea still uses that building. In addition, other major banks were also gathered here. Even now, most of the major bank headquarters in Korea are located here. There was even a saying that all the money in Korea is in Myeongdong. At one time, this was the center of fashion and finance in Korea. Not anymore. This street is still the most crowded, but you can see more foreigners than Koreans. Since 2000, when this place was designated as a tourist special zone, it has become a more convenient street for foreigners. Most of the employees here can speak English, Japanese, and Chinese. There are more stores aimed at foreigners than Koreans. Maybe that's why it's not a culture that follows the latest trends. Instead, it's where famous Korean brands that are known overseas are located the most. The reason is that this is the most expensive land in Korea. Only those with ample funds can open stores here. In other words, only famous brands that can pay the expensive rent are allowed to open stores. It feels fresh to foreigners, but it feels boring to Koreans. Because there are brands that can be easily found in other neighborhoods, but it's not like the area where the richest people in Korea live like before. There are more tourists because there are many hotels. The Koreans who visit here probably don't actually live in Seoul. Most of them are tourists from other regions. When I come to Myeongdong, I feel like I'm in a foreign country. There must be a lot of Koreans who come to see the tourists. Sometimes when I come here, I think, am I the only Korean in Myeongdong? I just saw a long line of people waiting in front of the bus stop as I was passing by. The people waiting there are people who live in the suburbs of Seoul. Most of them are Korean. Myeongdong is famous as a tourist destination, but since the headquarters of major companies in Seoul are gathered here, there are also many people commuting from neighboring cities. The day I visited was Saturday, so there were relatively few people waiting at the bus stop. The building you see on the right is Lotte Department Store main branch. The building with Avenue L written on it, and the buildings to the left, right, and behind it are all owned by the Korean distribution giant, Lotte. That place was originally the headquarters of two banks, but the building and the land were purchased to become the current size. Lotte is the company that owns the tallest building in Korea, and those buildings were used as headquarters before the 555 meters high-rise building was built. It is a very famous building because it is located in the center of Myeongdong Street. I arrived at Myeongdong Main Street. You can see that the street is full of street vendors. These street vendors are the charm of this street. In general, these street vendors are illegal in Korea. They do not register their business with the government and do not pay taxes because they do not conduct business. They were all illegal businesses. However, when this place was designated as a tourist special zone, they decided to allow street vendors to pay taxes properly. They sell street food and souvenirs at street vendors. This is the only place in Seoul where you can see this many street vendors. Myeongdong street food is well known overseas, but it is also famous among Koreans. You can only find this kind of atmosphere in this street.
이상이다 빨리 빨리 야 빨리 So what do you want to do?
엄마 좋아하는 거 저거. 맛있겠다.
위에 거랑 쓰고 많이 쓰나
If you look to the left, you will see an old-looking building made of bricks. This is the Myeongdong Art Theater, where you can watch movies and plays. It was built in 1936, during the Japanese colonial period by Shochiku, one of the three major Japanese film companies. At the time of its construction, it was the largest theater in Korea, with 1,500 seats. It is used as a landmark for this place. When Koreans meet someone in Myeongdong, they usually say, "Let's meet at the art theater," when deciding on a meeting place. As you can see from the street here, it is very crowded, so the theater is located in the center of Myeongdong's Main Street, but there are not many people around it.
kurabiyeleri var.
没问题。
아,
다 샀어. 예? 기름도 뭐예요? 그 차를 어디 중간에 이제 비싼가 봐. 가서 아니 가서 어디 주차를 해놓고 지나칠 것 같다고.
We came out of the main street of Myeongdong. There are relatively few people. The tall building with the fence on the right is a hotel. The tall building on the left is where the embassies of South American and African countries are located. The tall building on the left is the Seoul Central Post Office. It is the central agency that manages all post offices in Seoul. If you look to the left, you can see a building with a large LED display across the street. This is the main branch of Shinsegae department store. Shinsegae department store is a major distribution company in Korea. It is a family business with the well-known Samsung family overseas. After Samsung founder Lee Byung-chul passed away, his children divided up the huge business he left behind. So the person who runs Shinsegae department store is a cousin of the chairman of Samsung Electronics. You can see how influential the Samsung group is in Korea. Although it doesn't say Samsung, many major media companies and distribution companies in Korea are also run by the Samsung family. The tall building you can see across the street to the right from the department store in front is the headquarters of the Bank of Korea. This is the end of my Myeongdong walking tour. Thank you for watching.